This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Welcome to today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm your host, Roby Brock. Thank you so much for joining us. It was a busy day at the state capitol today as there were some very long, more than 2-hour committee hearings this morning. They spilled over into the afternoon hour, as a matter of fact, centered around tort reform and an anti-affirmative action bill, both controversial bills that have been moving through the legislature. We'll talk a little bit more about what happened in those committee hearings. And we'll be joined by Caroline Derby. She's KARK and Fox 16's Capitol reporter. She was there for some of that action. She joins us on today's Talk Business and Politics Daily.
Talk Business and Politics Daily is sponsored in part by Impact Management Group and
Power. It's right there, waiting, ready to go when you are. Connect this, click that, unconnect and go every day. Delivered by your electric cooperative. Each unique, always united, and completely local. Born from a mission to provide dependable, sustainable, and affordable power to every corner of Arkansas. And delivering on that promise for a brighter Arkansas every day. It's the local hometown cooperative way. Better connected. Together. The Electric Cooperatives of Arkansas.
Well, there were some lengthy committee hearings this morning as House and Senate members sat through testimony for and against two very controversial bills, one centering on tort reform, the other dealing with anti-affirmative action policies for the state. Here's a rundown of what happened. House Bill 1204, the tort reform bill that has passed the House already, cleared a Senate panel. After 3 hours of debate, Senator Missy Irvin, Republican of Mountain View, said the bill would allow an injured plaintiff to recoup the medical bills that are paid by an insurer, not the amount presented for services, which are often reduced due to contracts between insurance companies and healthcare organizations. Supporters of the bill said HB 1204 addresses what are known as phantom charges, and the bill would increase transparency and fairness in the calculation of damages during litigation. Opponents said changing the law would redefine how evidence is presented in court cases and would lower the amount of money awarded to injured victims. It cleared the Senate Judiciary Committee on a voice vote after about 3 hours of debate. It now heads to the full Senate. Senate Bill 3 was championed by Representative Mary Bentley, Republican of Perryville. She argued the bill aims to prohibit discrimination or preferential treatment by Arkansas state agencies and public education by eliminating certain programs that push for greater minority and female participation and representation. Opponents, of which there were many, contend the measure will lead to a lack of minority opportunities in business, government, and education. The bill removes language from programs and initiatives in state government and educational institutions that favor an individual or group, quote, on the basis of race, sex, color, ethnicity, or national origin in matters of state employment, public education, or state procurement. It passed on a voice vote in the House state agencies today and will now be considered by the full House. So when we come back from this commercial break, Caroline Derby, KARK and Fox 16's Capitol reporter, will join us for a little bit of the play-by-play action of what happened in those committee hearings and what were some of the more dramatic moments. Caroline Derby joins us right after this.
Talk Business and Politics Daily is sponsored in part by Capital Advisors Group and
in the Navy, I train recruits. At Walmart, I recruit veterans. So many veterans have built their careers here.
Served in the Army for 11 years. I was promoted 4 times. Been with Walmart 9 years. I've been promoted 5 times.
I started as an hourly associate, and now I run the store.
430,000 veterans hired in the last decade. That's more than serving in the U.S. Navy today. There's no better place for veterans to work.
Connection. It's the heart of what we do. It's why we work to better the communities where we live and work. It's why we're expanding to get people connected and create digital equity programs that support affordable internet and digital literacy. We're leaders for positive change. From the way we empower our people, clients, and communities to the way we care for our planet. We live our values every day. We're Cox Communications, and we're pleased to connect with you.
Joining me now, Caroline Derby. She is KARK, Fox 16 Capitol and Politics reporter. Good to have you with us, Caroline. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You are looking much better rested than I would have expected after hours long debate at the state capitol today, as well as this has been going on for a couple of, a little over a week now. Talking about Senate Bill 3, this anti-affirmative action bill that started in the Senate. It was heard in the House State Agencies Committee today. Give me a little bit of the feel for what it was like in the committee. Representative Mary Bentley sat at the end of the table, presented the bill all by herself, and fielded a lot of questions.
She really did. She took a lot of questions and she really explained the bill thoroughly in her opinion. To me, what stood out is just the sheer number of people in the room, too. There were a lot of people there, a lot high profile bill, if you will. A lot of her argument, she mentioned that it expands opportunity. Senate Bill 3 expands opportunity. It ends discrimination. Obviously, it's on the heels of what's happening at the federal level. She mentioned President Trump's recent executive order to end DEI and affirmative action programs at the federal level, and she is leading the charge along with Senator Dan Sullivan to take that here at the state level too, and faced a lot of opposition for it though too in the committee meeting from legislators and also other people in the room. But she did do it all by herself. It was about a 3 hour long meeting, lots of testimony, and I think what it boils down to, her position, she wants to expand opportunity, and I believe she even said that this would end what she calls state-sanctioned discrimination.
Yeah, and there were plenty of people lined up to speak against the bill that believe she's wrong in that interpretation. So maybe speak a little bit as to the sheer number of people that spoke against. I think there was one person, maybe two, that spoke for it, and then literally more than a dozen people spoke against it and made a variety of different arguments.
They did. There were a lot who spoke against it from a lot of different parts of the state, too. A lot of different organizations that spoke against the bill. One or two, like you said, did speak for it. I believe one was a lawyer who wanted to back up some of Representative Bentley's points that she made when she presented the bill itself. A lot of the discussion also was about merit, and that's something that Representative Bentley talked about is merit-based hiring. It doesn't matter race, sex, ethnicity, whatever it is, that doesn't matter anymore. She just wants merit-based hiring. It doesn't matter what you look like. But the counter argument to that was that some people don't get the opportunity to show their merit in the first place. And that's what a lot of people who are speaking against the bill mentioned as well. It takes away opportunity. It doesn't expand opportunity, and that this is in place to give people that chance to show their merit in the first place. The people who were speaking for the bill were with her and aligned with her on that idea of merit-based, whether it's hiring, admission into schools, different things like that, that it needs to be merit-based. Shouldn't matter exactly what you look like.
This bill does split very strongly along partisan lines. Republicans overwhelmingly for it, Democrats overwhelmingly opposed to it. There are obviously many more Republicans than Democrats, not only on that committee, but in both chambers of the House. There was one Republican, though, who got quite emotional, Representative Julie Mayberry, speaking about a particular point in the bill. She said, if I remember correctly, I'm not saying I'm completely opposed to it. I may get there, but I have a real problem with a particular point in there. Can you kind of give everybody a little background on her testimony or her comments?
Yeah, there was testimony that alluded to we don't know necessarily the full scope of the bill and what all of this affects. And that was leading to students in schools who may be a part of programs that give them extra time on test or give them the ability to do something that other students can't just because they may have a learning disability, something along those lines. And because she didn't know the full scope of the bill itself, and she got very emotional when she was talking about this, she mentioned like 504 plans for students. We don't know if this would take it away or not. And that's what her concerns were about not exactly knowing. Representative Bentley did point to a couple places in the bill to try to counter that some, but it didn't convince her all the way that she needed to vote for this bill in committee. And so a lot of discussion around scope of the bill itself. And I think that's what ultimately led her to being a no. But like you mentioned, very much along partisan lines, except for that vote from her.
Well, I can say this, but you cannot say it. But I've been covering politics up at the Capitol for over 25 years, and I've seen many a bill go through a committee where they don't know what the potential ramifications are. they'll decide they'll find out when there's a lawsuit filed and it gets explained to them one way or the other. So likely to happen with this legislation, because I do think that it's got potential to have overwhelming support in the House, which is where it heads next. How early could it be? How early could it be heard?
I think as early as tomorrow is what I'm hearing too. And then that'll definitely be something to keep our eye on as well as if it does make it through the House. And then ultimately what happens next after that too.
All right, Caroline Derby. She is politics and Capitol Bureau reporter for KARK and Fox 16. Thank you for giving us a little color commentary on what happened today.
And thanks, Roby.
That's all for today's Talk Business and Politics Daily. I'm your host, Roby Brock. We'll see you tomorrow.